So I have a whole iris container. I call it an iris container because it's made by the Iris Container Company of Paige Evans papers. I have this new 6x8 paper pad. I have the blooming one. That 6x8 was adventurous. This blooming one has some plain color cardstock. I'm trying to see if it coordinates. You know what? It's close enough. I made other albums using that adventurous collection, and it was a lot of fun. So when I saw that I could purchase some of these stickers, I just went ahead and got a whole bunch of it thinking, okay, I'm going to use all these and make a whole bunch of albums. Here's the scraps that I have left over from making the mini albums. I mean, there is a lot of scraps. I had these enamel letters. I had a sticker book that's all torn apart, but I still have a lot of it. And a lot of small scraps too. Oh, and also I had these sheets of acetate. Now they match the Adventurous collection, but I have seen mini albums. I just went in Pinterest and put in acetate mini albums and came up with a lot of projects. So let me show you what I want to make. So I wanted to show you what I had and show you what I wanted to smash. Okay, I have gone ahead and made a book. Now I'm following a tutorial from Bambi Deer. I will link it in the description box. You really need to go check it out because I'm not going to repeat what she's done. But so this is about 5.5 by 4. Of course, I didn't use plain acetate. I'm using this acetate that matches the Adventurous collection. I stitched. I used a pink thread. It's got a 2-inch spine, which is quite big. Obviously, it's not perfectly straight, but the way that she changed it was she added a piece of string because she, in her first one, Amber stitched it. And then in the one she was showing us in the video, she used double-sided adhesive, so she wanted to cover that up. Okay, so I took the measurements, and so there's that. So that would cover it, but it doesn't cover the full acetate. So I'm wondering, did she fold this 1/2 inch? And there's space between these pages, which I prefer, but she didn't have space between her pages. Now, I have not decorated it, but it's sort of a neat idea. I did follow her. So again, hers was single-sided paper, so she had to add extra paper to the inside. And I followed her tutorial and like to put these matching papers. Next time I'll do it, I won't have matching papers on the inside. I think it adds to the whole look of it if it's not so matchy-matchy. I also used a zigzag stitch, so you can see I didn't do it on the first one, but on the second one I thought, well, if I zigzag on this 1/4 inch gusset, that really will hold it, and it does hold it. But I'm thinking maybe I'll just use double-sided adhesive. And gee, I really wish this was a little bit smaller. I mean, I could get away with a 1/4 inch smaller, but otherwise I like the idea. So a couple improvements I'll make is I'll make the spine a little bit smaller. Will I do 6 pages? I don't know. 4 is enough because with 4 you get 4 pages. With 6 you have 24 pages. So you can get a lot of photos in 24 pages. But I don't know. I'll see what I get with the next one. But I'm also going to fold it on the sides. One thing about acetate is sometimes I trim the corners. Sometimes it's too sharp and it'll cut you, so I don't like that. And of course, once we decorate it, it will be really cool. So I decided I'm going to make another one, and then I'll decorate them all, decide whether or not I'm going to cover this. I mean, can you see the stitches? It looks sort of fun, doesn't it? But anyhow, that is my first attempt at it. I'll stick that in there. So let me show you what I am going to do with mine. Okay, here's my acetate, and you can use plain acetate if you wanted to. And if you only have like 8.5 by 11, just keep it at 11 and don't score the sides. You'll see what I mean. But I'm going to put the 12-inch side at the top and score it at 1/2 inch. It's not really thick acetate, so when you score it, and I'm scoring with a stylus that has sort of a point, when you score it, it's going to fold real easy. Then I'm going to score it at 5. It just does tend to slide, and I don't want it to move. And it's 7, 5, 7, and 11.5. Okay, now I'm going to rotate it. And I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch. And at 6.5. Okay. Now I'm also going to sew it, but it's hard for me to show that. Okay, so I'm going to cut off the corners. I'm just going to cut straight across. There's an X created by our 2 score lines when they intersect, so just cut straight across all of those. Now, if you don't want to sew it, you can certainly use double-sided adhesive. I wonder if that's what I should do just to make this easier. I'll burnish. Alright, well that's nice. Alright, I'm not going to fold there and burnish until I sew it. So I'm going to do that next. Okay, so I decided to double stitch it. I think that looks pretty nice. I'm going to take my corner chomper and just ever so lightly, I don't want a big rounded corner. I just don't like it to be, that didn't come from that. I don't like it to be pointed and sharp. But now that we folded it, it's not nearly as bad, but still. I just want that corner to be a little bit rounded. My regular corner rounder didn't work. So there's the inside. But again, if you just use double-sided tape, I think that would be just fine. Just burnish it real well. Speaking of burnishing, we'll go ahead and fold and burnish on those score lines for the spine. And the acetate does burnish nicely. All right, so there is our cover. I like it. Okay, so now let's talk about the pages. So in this book that I made, and you can tell this one's a little bit bigger. Yeah, it's just a little bit bigger. This one, I didn't use the full 12 inches. I forget what measurement she said, but I figure I might as well use the full 12 inches. Okay, for the pages. If you want to make pages just like this, which are just very simple. Now, again, it's single-sided paper, so I will add paper inside. But, so you'll need 6, but I'm only doing 2, and I'll explain why in a second. But you would need 6 if you want to do all the pages the same. 5 3/4 by 8 3/4. You're going to put it on the scoreboard with the 8 3/4 at the top, score it at 4 1/4, and score it at 4 1/2. So now you'll have 2 pages that are 4 1/4 by 5 3/4. That's good. You can put small photos on there. Now I'm going to do 2, as I said. So 4 1/4, 4 1/2. And then to cover this, and I'm going to use the exact same size, so 5 3/4 by 4 1/4, and I'm going to leave that center gusset plain. At this point, you can always cover it with paper, but I'm going to leave it plain. Now, what I decided to do, because, you know, why leave well enough alone? If you can have one page that's plain, why don't you do other pages that have pockets or flaps? I just built it right in. So I cut two that are 5 3/4 by 12. So we will score it at weird measurements, I know. 1 5/8, 5 7/8, 6 1/8, that's our 1/4 inch gusset, and then 10 3/8. We'll do again for number 2, 1 5/8, 5 7/8, 6 1/8, and 10 3/8. So what that does is it gives you the gusset. So I'll fold that. And then it gives you a flap, or it could be a tuck spot or a side loading pocket. And once I decorate it, then I'll figure out what I want to do. Or you can just glue it over, and that's part of the page. So we'll do that with 2 of those. Okay, now, along those same lines, we have 2 more pieces. This time the measurements are 7 3/4 by 9 3/4. So I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch. 4 3/4, 5, 9 1/4. Rotate and score it at 5 3/4. Let me score this too. 1/2. 4 3/4, 5, 9 1/4. Rotate and score it 5 3/4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these 2 score lines on that gusset. I'm going to miter here. Might as well miter there too. Miter, miter, and then I'm going to cut this long piece. Just cut that off. I mean, you could just take it and fold it in if you wanted to, but just to keep things simple, I'm just going to cut it off. Alright, so what this is going to do is we'll make a pocket. Now, you could do it either way. Or you could do one way and one the other. So you have a pocket and then a pocket. Alright, I'll do this one too. So I'm going to cut down up to that first score line right on our gusset. I'm going to miter here. By miter I mean just go at a angle. Now you don't need to do these other pages with the pockets. You could do all 6 pages. I'm looking at the measurement. All 6 pages, the 5 3/4 by 12. And just make them all the same just to make it easier. Just want to give you some options in case you wanted to do something different. Maybe I'll do one where I just do it pretty simple, make it easy. We'll see. Okay, so this will go like this. That'll fold up. Let me burnish that. And we'll have this one go this way and fold it up and burnish that as well and cut off our little gusset. All right, now what I'm going to do is fold all these, I'll glue them all, and then I'll add tape and we'll start putting them in the book. Okay, I sped this up because otherwise it would be really boring, but I am just covering those blank pages because again, I'm using single-sided paper. If you use double-sided paper, you don't have to do this, but it makes it fun and changes the whole look of everything. So for most of the pages, it is 4 1/4 by 5 3/4. You might want to cut it down just a little bit, but otherwise that should work. The pockets were 4 1/4 by 2 inches, and that side flap, like the one I'm covering right now, was 1 1/2 by 5 3/4. In this one, I added some of the acetate. I put it on top of paper just to make it a little more interesting. So I just am going through, pulling stuff out of my scraps, trying to use things that were already done. On this page, I'm putting in that always, because what I wanted to do is I'm going to sew these pages, and I wanted to sew that on. The adhesive on some of these stickers isn't the best, and so sewing it on adds extra texture, and it is sure to stay if you sew it on. So I'm going to finish this up and then we'll move on. Okay, so I have 1/4 inch double-sided permanent adhesive. I'm using the Suk Wang, but I'll also use scrapbook.com's. That is just as good in my opinion. So what I'm going to do is open this up and put this right on the outside gusset, in between those two score lines. And instead of just cutting it down with my nails, I am going to use scissors to cut it so I get a straight line. So I'll start here, go at the top, find that score line, put it right on that score line, and cut it down. Now, I already did put this in the order that I wanted it to go in the book. I was paying attention to colors and patterns, and I didn't want the same features back to back. I mean, if you do, it's no big deal. But you didn't want all the pocket pages right next to each other. Just makes it more interesting. And I think I was going to just take it and put it right in the book. But first, what I want to do is add paper to the underside so it's got some color. And I also might sew it before I do that and add any extra features that I want to sew. So I'm going to do that first, and then we'll come back and we'll put everything into the book. And again, I sped it up a little bit, and I am doing a voiceover. So with the first page, it's the most important, so I just have it right facing me so I can see, and I'm just about 1/8 of an inch away from the score line. And of course, you want to make sure it's even top to bottom. I'm going to burnish it really well after I'm done putting everything in, but I'm just trying to get everything in. And since I did sew everything, and you can tell I put some pom-poms on some of the edges, some of the score tape backing isn't coming up that easy. Now, I do make sure that I vary the pages. Like I've got one of the plain ones, and then I have a pocket, and then I have one with the side flaps, and then repeat. So you don't have two plain pages right next to each other. If that's how you chose to do it, there's nothing wrong with doing a book with just the basic pages. But, you know, that's just me. I have to add a pocket if I can. So I'm just doing a really good job of getting it in. I did make a mistake somewhere along the line and had to pull this up. It's hard because that acetate really wants to stick. So anyhow, I'm going to go through and put these pages in, and then we'll move on. And basically, I just take my bone folder and do a really good job of burnishing this. I will tell you, I do cut a piece that's slightly less than 1/4 of an inch by 5 3/4 and fill in that white gap on all of the pages at some point. Okay, hello. So I am done. I've got the pages in, I decorated, and then I put this magical bead mixture on the side. I'll show you that in a second, but let me talk a little bit about decorating. So I went through and I added all the paper as you saw, and then I went through and decorated. Let me do a walkthrough to show you. So first of all, on the cover, I added just some flowers that coordinated with this. Some were stickers, some were ephemera. I did have some gold die cut images. That was chipboard, a couple of chipboard buttons. I will tell you, to adhere anything onto acetate, you need to use double-sided permanent adhesive. Once you have the acetate on, I could glue this hello onto the paper, but you need to use acetate to use double-sided permanent adhesive to glue to the acetate. So it's sort of like a false cover. Even though that is a cover, I didn't make it so you would put a photo there. I just made it as, I don't know, just a extra cover. And then you can see the pattern in the back. So I do have that pretty plaid. And I put this here because I didn't want it plain, even though you really don't see the flower in the front. Now you see I added some pom-poms that I had in my stash, and I put them on with a 1/8 double-sided permanent adhesive before I went and sewed everything. And I basically just sewed around the whole rectangle. These pockets, of course, are open at the side, and that is perfectly okay. Gives you room. I layered a lot of different ephemera. So that's chipboard. That might have been a stick. I don't know what was a sticker and what was not. I know that's a puffy sticker. I used tuck spots. I used pockets. I just went crazy with all the things that I had. Here, of course, is a pocket. I did have these letters. This is one instance where I did not stitch them down, but I did in other cases. Put a couple of tags in here. This was butterflies, and then I said, let's fly away. I thought that was cute, but then I covered most of the butterflies. You don't even see it. Another chipboard element. I added something in here, but the whole intention of this is to put a photograph in there. I took some paper and ripped it and just made it fit. That was letters from the sticker sheet. They don't stick. And then afterwards, I just added some powder. I did have some black rickrack, just so they popped ever so slightly. And of course, I stitched them on. I made a tuck spot with that flower. I just like how that page coordinates. And look at that pom-pom. Layered again. I glued this on here, put the chipboard element. Wasn't nuts about this paper, but you know, once you cover it with things, you just don't even see. Here's one of those side loading pockets. I did put some ribbon at the side with some double-sided permanent adhesive. There was a couple of just photo mats or journaling cards that I put in there. So you still could put a small photo there. That's entirely okay. That's really what it's made for. Here's that one page that had the acetate that I covered. I put it on. I just put double-sided adhesive on the top and bottom and then stitched around it. So it just makes a nice little tuck spot. And then, of course, once you add some ephemera, it's good. So I had that. And then I had that cut apart. And then I just had this piece. And I liked it just because I loved the colors. This page, I left alone. It's okay to leave some pages blank. Of course, it's got the stitching on it, so it adds a little texture to it. The chipboard elements here and layered on top of other elements there. That is just glued there. I had this kitty cat paper clip. I thought, if I'm not going to use it now, when am I going to use it? So I put it right there. Another pocket. This actually is from a totally different collection, but I liked the colors. Here is that always that you might have seen before, and it shows you that I stitched it on here. Just layered some different papers. I tore some and just layered them. It's not a tuck spot. It just is a good spot to put a photo. Like if you had a photo, you could put it right there. So here is a nice little pocket. More chipboard elements. This is a side-loading pocket, and I just put that pretty big daisy there because I liked it, like the pink pom-poms. These corners were part of the chipboard page. I liked it. This already had stitching on it. It was just one of the pages that I cut it out because this page and this page didn't coordinate at all. But you know what? That's okay. I added some of these pieces of ephemera into this pocket. I took a paper clip and just added some pom-pom trim on it. So that makes a nice little spot to have that. And then there is the back page. Okay, let's talk about this. So I feel like this was, oh, and I also did put some paper on the back here. I felt like the double-sided permanent adhesive really attached the pages, but it doesn't mean that I'm comfortable with that. So I decided, Amber, in some of her tutorials, likes to do adding beads to elastic on the side, especially if it's a traveler's notebook. And so I made some of these beads out of some of the scraps of paper. Now, I should have recorded it, but I didn't because it was just an experiment. Wasn't sure how they were going to turn out. I took about an inch, inch and a quarter by about 8 inches long, cut it into a triangle, started rolling it on. I had some of these skewers. I put in a little bit of double-sided adhesive at the first inch, so when I started rolling, it would stay. Do I have any? Okay, this is not a perfect triangle, but you can imagine. So you just start rolling it really close. I have to go a couple of times to make sure it's going to stay. Then if you have some adhesive, that'll keep it. But I also took some Mod Podge and I put it on both sides of this. You could use glue, and then just kept winding and winding, trying to keep it as straight as I could. And then it'll get smaller. And then if you have a point here, you'll see the point at the end. And then I took some embossing powder, some clear embossing powder. I just rolled it in the Versamark, put in embossing powder and embossed it. So it gave it a shiny little look. So that's how you can see those. I was hoping they would coordinate a little more, but I guess the paper I chose didn't coordinate. But anyhow, those are nice. They added a little something. I didn't have very many beads. I had some small white beads, and I also have little sequins in here and shaker elements, just whatever had a hole in it that I could string. I used just to add some interesting elements to the side. So there is that one. And then this measures, by the way, I mean, forget about the beads, 4.5 by 6 by 2. Yep. The other one I thought, I think it's bigger than 2. Somehow I messed up in my measurement. No, it does say it's 2. I don't know. But let me do a walkthrough of this one real quick. Again, it's similar, but it's not the same. I did stitch this writing smile. It was from Dimensionals that I had with the Adventurous collection. Just layered some more flowers and whatnot in the front. Of course, this one I stitched, but I only stitched once. I didn't do a double stitching. Yeah, nothing very exciting. Covered this page because it was upside down. Added a chipboard element. Have a bunch of tuck spots in different places in these books. This was chipboard, which actually matches with this paper. And I had those, and what else was I going to do with them? If I were smart, I would have stitched them, but, I mean, it's pretty thick chipboard. Another frame here. This is a top-loading tuck spot. I don't know what you'd call it. Anyhow, it's at the top. Added a chipboard heart. There is that page. Another tuck spot there. I just put the birds here. Left that pretty plain. Here's a pocket with just a couple of different elements. Uh-oh, where'd that come from? Oh, that was here. So sometimes, that's what I'm saying, this chipboard does not glue very well, or does not adhere. So I'm adding glue to it. Add glue to that too, just to make sure it stays. That was from the sticker sheet, little scallop. These were little cut aparts from the 6x8 collection. I'm pretty sure that's where they came from. I did back that on paper, cut it out, and I did stitch around that cute little heart. I backed that on some vellum, just because the paper was real busy. Made that a tuck spot. That's a tuck spot at the top. I just layered a couple of different things on there. Here's a nice big pocket I made using some, just a large scrap of paper. Made a corner pocket, a tag, a piece of ephemera, or just a journal card. I layered that just by using some dimensional adhesive. There's the back page. I did put something here because you can see it through the back, but I left it open so you still could put a photo. And there's that gorgeous stitching on there. So that is it. I said I was going to make albums using that adhesive, that acrylic acetate. That's the word I'm looking for. The acetate that I had that matched the Adventurous collection. And I thought they came out really good. So I want to thank Amber for her tutorial. I will link that in the description box if you want to go check out the measurements for this. She's got really good tutorials, and you might see a couple more mini albums using similar things. I mean, I still have some acetate. Let's see if I can use it up along with that stash. So that's what I wanted to show you today. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Hit the bell for notification, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you, and have a fabulous day.